When we think of abuse, we often associate it with situations and scenarios involving a physical altercation. Few people know that there is also such a thing as mental abuse. Although there are no visible wounds, bruises, or other marks, victims suffer at least as much from mental abuse as they do from physical abuse. In today's video, you'll learn what mental abuse is and what it can do to those affected. But we must also point out that this video is for informational purposes only and does not replace a diagnosis. If you like our videos, support us with a thumbs up, subscribe, activate the little bell, and look forward to the videos we upload for you every day. First, let's answer the question, what is psychological abuse? Psychological abuse can be verbal, emotional, or psychological in nature. Insults, manipulation, and oppression are among the forms of psychological abuse. The perpetrators want to control, humiliate, or exploit their victims. To do so, they yell at their victims, isolate them from family and friends, violate privacy, or humiliate victims in public. Psychological abuse is often overlooked or not taken seriously by others because it is very difficult to recognize. Yet psychological abuse is by no means less dangerous than physical abuse. What does physical abuse do to the victims? In today's video, we'll show you 6 examples of what consequences psychological abuse can have for those affected. Number 1. You doubt yourself. The worst thing psychological abuse can do to a person is cause them to feel great guilt and self-doubt. For example, this happens especially often when the abuser is also the significant other. Victims often blame themselves, wondering what they should have done to change the situation or why they didn't fight back. Often, victims blame themselves for the abuse or start by putting themselves down. The purpose of psychological abuse for perpetrators is to destroy self-esteem and self-confidence so that victims accept the abuse and become compliant. As a result, victims doubt being important to friends and family, which is why it is not uncommon for them to break off contact. Number 2. The struggle with self-blame. Most victims of psychological abuse not only tend to doubt themselves, they also tend to blame themselves. Victims look for reasons why they themselves are to blame for what they experienced, and in the aftermath evaluate what they should have done differently to ward off the attacks. Spending hours searching for counter-arguments is also typical of sufferers. Self-recrimination is the most common reason why many abuse victims still have difficulty coming to terms with their trauma years later. Number 3. You lose confidence in your own mind. Constant emotional manipulation, where perception is deceived, is one of the most common forms of psychological abuse. Sufferers of this type of psychological abuse question their own sanity. The loss of confidence in one's own judgment is very difficult to handle. Sufferers believe the lies of others rather than their own memories. They also often disregard their own gut feelings. Number 4. You downplay deeds. A major problem is that victims are often asked if they have also been physically abused or felt threatened. A negative answer to such questions makes victims feel that what they experienced was not that bad. Many feel ashamed and for this reason refrain from filing a report or taking similar measures. Help is often not sought because the shame and fear are too great. Number 5. Constantly reliving flashbacks. Trauma is a common reaction to abuse. It does not matter if the abuse is physical or mental. Affected abuse victims may experience panic attacks when triggered by external events or by internal flashbacks. Even though victims are often unaware that what they have experienced has been detrimental to their mental health, the mind associates certain situations with danger, of which it wants to warn the victim with panic attacks. Signs of a panic attack are symptoms such as tense muscles, sudden trembling or sweating, and a rapid heartbeat. Triggers for such an attack are usually things related to abuse. For example, these could be certain words, a certain place, or an overall situation. The flashbacks often occur suddenly and vividly and are very unpleasant to experience. Number 6, victims develop difficulty trusting other people. Psychological abuse often occurs at the hands of perpetrators who are very close to the victim and are trusted confidants. It is difficult for many victims to become involved with another person again and to enjoy mutual trust, even if the traumatic experiences happened a long time ago. The relationship with friends, relatives, and family members is also irrevocably damaged after regular psychological assaults. This is because the affected person has had to experience firsthand how painful it is to trust the wrong person. Even if the person involved was previously very open-hearted, forgiving, and fun-loving, paranoia, fear, and insecurity dominate that person after the psychological abuse. What can you do if you know someone who has been affected? If you know someone who is a victim of abuse, you should not hesitate to approach the person. It doesn't matter if the abuse is physical or psychological. Take plenty of time to talk and let the other person talk without pressuring them. Show the person that you are there for them and that you take them and their problems seriously. You should not judge what you have experienced. Explain to the person why it is important to seek professional help and what options they have. What can you do if you are affected yourself? If you are affected yourself, you must first recognize your situation. Be aware that you are a victim and not a perpetrator. Recognize that psychological abuse is also a form of violence. Confide in someone. If you do not want to trust anyone in your immediate environment, you can turn to self-help groups or even certain emergency groups. Here you will be received with understanding, and your data and statements will be treated confidentially. Try to separate yourself from the person who is harming you, and find a safe space where no one can harm you. Turn to a psychotherapist and accept his help. You have been through a lot, and you will not be able to cope without help. Give yourself the time you need. It will take you a long time to recover from your trauma, and that is perfectly okay. You can report your abuser when you are ready. Don't let anyone force you to do anything, and make it clear when someone crosses a line. Today's conclusion: psychological abuse is common. Often it is not recognized by those around the affected person. The victims themselves also have difficulty seeking help due to shame and self-esteem issues. Psychological abuse is no less serious than physical abuse. It can make people ill and result in serious mental illness. Anyone who is abused by another person should seek professional help as soon as possible and realize that they deserve to have any form of violence, including psychological attacks, called out. That's it for today.
Thanks for watching. Did you find this information helpful? Do you have experience with it? We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. For more resources about mental health, self-improvement, and psychology, visit our website. You'll find the link in the video description where you can also connect with us on social media and sign up for our email list. Take care of yourself and have a beautiful day.